Hello everyone. So when we talk about the preparation of UPSC CSE examination, we know that it is divided into various phases, that is prelims, mains and then interview. Now when we talk about prelims, it is mostly about practice. When we talk about mains, it is about your answer writing, and then comes the interview part, which is mostly about the articulation of your thoughts. Now at this junction, when we are looking at the prelims, which is around the corner, practice of MCQs becomes imperative. Keeping that in mind, we have come up with this series, that is Target Prelims 2026 Revision with MCQs, wherein we'll be discussing few MCQs from different sections of the syllabus. In this episode, we'll be talking about history section. Okay, so let's start. My name is Lalit Soni and you are watching Drishti IAS. So let's start with the first question over here. Consider the following statement regarding the Paleolithic age in India. So they are talking about the Paleolithic age. You know that when we talk about the Stone Age, that is divided into three parts. Okay, so we'll be talking about that as we move further. There was no knowledge of cultivation during this period, and the humans were mostly, you can say, entirely dependent on the predatory activities, that is basically hunting and gathering. Okay, so here they are saying that there was no knowledge of the cultivation, that is agriculture was missing. So obviously in the Paleolithic age, that was the start of the, you can say, human history. We can say that there was no knowledge of the agriculture. This statement is correct. Coming to the second one, the humans already possessed knowledge of building rudimentary houses, evidenced by the structure found in the Balan Valley rock shelters. When we talk about the Balan Valley, that is mostly related to your rock shelters. So we can say that there was no structure. These were the natural rocks. Okay, rocks under which, or the caves under which human found the shelter. Okay, but construction activities was not there, and that is also logical because it was the start of the Stone Age. So you cannot say that the buildings or the tools required for the building construction was available at that point of time. So we can say that in the Paleolithic age, the stone tools were not that developed. Okay, only for the hunting or gathering they used to use the stone, but the tools were not polished, or they were not that sharp enough to go for the construction of the building. So that was another statement which is basically, you can say, wrong, because it is saying that the human at that point of time already had the knowledge of going for the construction or making the buildings. So that is not true. So statement 2 is wrong. Coming to the next one, because if you look at the statement 2 and if you reject this one, so you can come to the answer over here. Second is wrong here, here and here. So option B would be your right answer. In prelims also, this kind of assessment will help you a lot. Okay, that will help you in the elimination as well. Now coming to the third statement, the climate generally coincided with the Pleistocene period, that is generally called as the Ice Age, characterized by the extensive ice sheets at the higher altitude. So this is correct. So we can say that option B would be your right answer. Here you can see option B is your right answer. These explanations I have already told you. Here you can see, when I told you about the Stone Age, I told you that was divided into three parts. One was the Paleolithic, that was until 8000 BC. Then comes the Mesolithic, and then Neolithic. When we talk about the Paleolithic, that is when we started to use the stone as a tool, but we are not yet fully developed, or you can say we were not very much technically sound at that point of time. Okay, so that was one part. Here mostly the human was involved in the hunting activities, hunting and gathering activities. Okay, so we did not have the agricultural knowledge at this point of time. Okay, coming to the second part, that is the Mesolithic. Now in the Mesolithic age, they started to use the smaller tools, or you can say microliths. Okay, microliths. This lith word is basically referring to the stones or the rocks. Okay, now here you can see they have come up with the sharp tools. They have come up with the, you can say, small sharp tools. So this is the age where they started to use the microliths. Now coming to the next part, that is the Neolithic age. Here you can also say that at this point of time they started to have a transition. Okay, some kind of domestication of animal has started. Okay, but agriculture was still not that much prominent. Coming to the Neolithic age, where you can see they started to use composite tools. Okay, the microliths which were there, they started to use them as the form of X, etc. So here you can see that they have attached the wood with the stones, and they have come up with the idea of X. Now here this is where they started to go for the agriculture. Okay, so that is the Neolithic history, we can say. So here we have three parts: Paleolithic, Mesolithic and the Neolithic. So here we started to go for agriculture. Here some kind of domestication had started, but this was totally hunting and gathering. Okay, coming to the explanation part, which I have already explained, you can go through this particular slide over here. Okay, for your reference, I'll be keeping a pause over here. Now moving further to the next part, when we talk about the Paleolithic or the you can say Neolithic kind of ages, so they are also further divided into Upper Paleolithic and the Lower Paleolithic. Upper Paleolithic is basically the initial part and the lower one is the later part. Okay, coming to the next one, consider the following statement: the northern spurs of Vindhyas shows cultural continuity from the Paleolithic to Neolithic period. So basically what they are saying, that these areas of Vindhyas, they show the continuity when we are talking about the archaeological evidences. So they are saying that from the Paleolithic to Mesolithic to Neolithic, all kind of tools or all kind of evidences has been found in this particular area. So this statement is true. Coming to the next one, the emergence of the polished stone tools during the Mesolithic phase marked the transition towards the settled agriculture. I told you already that the polished tools were used in the Neolithic age and not in the Mesolithic age. Second part is that they are talking about the settled agriculture. I told you that some kind of domestication has started, but agriculture was not prominent at that point of time. So we know that statement 2 is incorrect. Even if you don't know the statement 1, if you know that statement 2 is incorrect, you can arrive at the right answer. So here you can say that if one statement is incorrect, so A and B are already eliminated. Coming to the next one, that is the statement 1 is correct, but the statement 2 is not. Here we are saying that yes, statement 2 is not correct, but 1 is correct. So option C would be your right answer. Okay, so this is how you arrive at the right answers. Okay, so this is the explanation part wherein archaeological evidences, when we talk about the archaeological evidences, you will be seeing that there is the method that stratification, like this is the soil profile. Okay, so if you are going for the exploration in the upper part of the soil profile, so here if you are finding the tools from the Neolithic age, okay, then you are going for the further exploration, you will be finding the tools from the Mesolithic age and then the Paleolithic age. This is how we can say that in that particular area there was a continuity. Okay, so that was the case in the Belen Valley, sorry, that was the case in the Vindhyas. Okay, coming to the next part, Mesolithic age, we have already discussed that. And then comes to the Neolithic age, which we have already discussed in this particular slide. Okay, now we can move to the next question. Consider the following pairs of historical regions and their corresponding modern locations. Now Meluha is the place. Before going into the answer, here you can see the region corresponding to the modern day Iraq. So this is not correct, because Meluha was the region which was generally referring to the part of your Indus Valley Civilization. Okay, so that was first, you can say pair is incorrect. Coming to the second one, that is Dilmun, area corresponding to the present day Bahrain. Okay, so this statement is correct. These areas of Malak or Dilmun, these were some kind of, you can say, stations where the trade used to happen, or you can say they were the positions between the Mesopotamian and the Indus Valley civilizations, or the central point to these two. Okay, moving further, we will be seeing that. Then coming to the Malay, you know that Malay Peninsula, when we talk about, so that is the same. So area corresponding to the present day Tamil Nadu, no, this is not the area. When we talk about the Malay, that is the part of Malaysia, Singapore, or the Myanmar in the extension as well. Okay, so we can say that only second one is the correct. Other than that, two are not. So only one pair is correctly matched. Option A would be your right answer. Now here you can see that this is our Indus Valley Civilization, that is also known as the Meluha in this region. And then here you can say this is the Mesopotamian civilization in the areas of modern day Iraq. And here this is the transition, or you can say the central point over here, that is Dilmun and the Makan. These were you can say intermediate trading stations. Okay. Now moving further, this is the explanation which we have already seen. Here you can say Mesopotamian records from 2050 BC refers to the trade relations between the Meluha, which we know that we had the trade relations with the other civilizations like Mesopotamian or the Sumerians, you can say. That comes the second part, that is Dilmun, that is Sumerian name of the ancient independent kingdom that flourished during the 2000 BCE, centered around the modern day Bahrain island, okay, and the Persian Gulf area. Coming to the next one, other name here you can remember, that is Makan. Okay, so these were the areas around the Persian Gulf. Okay, coming to the next one, Malay in the ancient text refers to the Malay Peninsula, which we have already discussed, the areas of Myanmar, Burma, or the southwestern sections of the Thailand, West Malaysia, Singapore, etc. Okay. Coming to the next question, that is, consider the following pairs with reference to the Indus Valley Civilization. Materials are given and they are talking about the primary source reasons. Okay. Now you know that there were trades which we have already seen. So there was a lot of things which were coming out from the Mesopotamian, or the, you can say, Sumerian civilization, and then there are things which we used to export as well. Now these materials like copper, carnelian, or the lapis lazuli. Okay, so primary source reason we have to match with. So copper from the Khetri mines in Rajasthan. Now this is correct because we know that Rajasthan has been a prominent source of copper in the past. So that is Khetri mines, which is quite famous as well. So statement 1 or the pair 1 is correct. Then comes the carnelian, that is the Lothal region of Gujarat. Now carnelian is kind of in the beads making, it is one material which is being used. So we know that Lothal was also famous for the bead factories. Okay, or Harappan civilization, they were expert in beads and ornaments. Okay, so that was some kind of you can say logic which you can use, that carnelian which is used in the beads factories. So Lothal region was of Gujarat was famous for that. Then lapis lazuli, that is from the Badakhshan region of Central Asia. So that is also true. So all of them, all these pairs are correctly matched. Option C would be your right answer. Now here you can see Badakhshan, that is basically famous for lapis lazuli, then Lothal, that is for the carnelian, and Khetri mines for the copper. Here you can look see copper from the Khetri mines of Rajasthan. Now how will you know that the copper found in the Indus Valley or in areas of Sumerian civilization, that was from Rajasthan? So basically the kind of impurities which has been found in the copper, which was found in the explorations, that was resembling with the Khetri mines. Okay, then coming to the carnelian, so this is sourced from the Lothal region. Then comes the lapis lazuli, this is some kind of stone, so you can see over here. Now coming to the explanation part, which we have already seen. So here you can say Harappan acquired copper from the Khetri, that is there in Rajasthan. Then coming to the next one, that is beads and the ornaments. These were quite famous in the Lothal regions, and Harappans were expert in the bead making. Okay, and the precious stone, which we have already seen, that is lapis lazuli, that is coming from the Central Asia. Comes the fifth question. With reference to the rise of sects in Jainism, consider the following statement. The schism in Jainism began around 2nd century BC and led to the formation of Digambar and Shwetambar sects by the 1st century CE. So when we talk about the schism, that means that the kind of divide which started in the Jainism, that is there. So this statement is true when we are talking about the sects like Digambars and the Shwetambars. Then coming to the next one, that is Digambars believed that only male could attain the moksha. Okay, which we will be seeing moving further. Then Sthanakvasi sect originated from the Digambar and rejected the temple worship and the image worship. So that is not from the Digambars, that is from the Shwetambars. Okay, so we can say that statement 3 is incorrect, and then 1 and 2 is correct. Option B would be your right answer over here. Here you can see when we talk about the schism or the divide. Now why that divide was there? So you must have heard about the famines which was there during the Mauryas. Okay, so during the Mauryas there was famine, and because of which there was a migration which has happened in the northern part of India, and few of the Jain monks, they have migrated towards the southern part of India, you can say around Karnataka. Okay, so there were two people, one was the Sthalbahu and Bhadrabahu. Okay, so few people in the leadership of Bhadrabahu went to the southern part of India, and Sthalbahu was the one which they stayed in the northern plains. Okay, so that is how there was a divide which started. And another reason we can say that at that point of time, the literature of the Jainism or the kind of practices or the conduct of the monks, they had various disputed in that as well, like how they would move further. You know that Jainism is kind of quite disciplined kind of religion. So the conduct becomes important, and there was some kind of you can say dissatisfaction, or you can say some kind of rift between the monks among the conduct. So that was another reason with respect to which we can see that there was a schism in the Jainism during the 2nd century, and in 1st century basically there was a divide which was quite visible, that is Digambaras and the Svetambars. Now when we talk about the Digambars, so the core belief was the strict orthodoxy. So basically, as I told you, that they are quite disciplined, so they have taken the hard kind of path. Okay, and when we talk about the Svetambars, they have taken a little bit liberal kind of path. Okay, then for the firm belief that the woman cannot obtain moksha because they they were the hardliners, so that was one of the belief which was there. Then coming to the Svetambars, so they used to have a white clad. Okay, then when we talk about the Digambars, they mostly go for the sky clad. Okay, or mostly they did not use any kind of cloth on their body. Okay, so that was the difference between two. When we talk about the Sthanakvasis, that is a subsect of the Svetambars, which we have seen here. You can see statement 2 is correct with respect to the only male could attain the, you can say, liberation by being a monk, or they can get to the moksha. Then comes to the third one, that is Sthanakvasis, that is from the, you can say, Svetambars. So this statement becomes incorrect. Option B would be your right answer. This is the same explanation which is written in the text form over here, so you can go through this. Coming to the next one, with reference to Buddhism, consider the following statement. Mahayana upholds the Bodhisattva idol and accepts the additional scriptures such as the Lotus Sutra. And second statement is Heenyan aim at individual liberation through self-effort. Now again, when we talk about Buddhism, like Jainism also, there was some kind of divide which has happened in the Buddhism as well. So when I told you about the Mahayana, I told you about the Bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas are, you can say, those who has, you can say, deferred their own liberation to help others to go on the path of liberation. Okay, so that is Bodhisattvas. Okay, now in Mahayana, they endorse Bodhisattvas and they endorse other literature as well. Now when we talk about Heenyan, they stick to the old literature. Okay, and they do not go for the idol worship, etc. Okay, coming to the next one, Heenyan aims at individual liberation through self-effort, which is also true. Now both the statement here are true, so option C would be your right answer. Now here you can see Mahayana and the Heenyan. Mahayana is considered as the great vehicle. Here they are talking about not only those who are practicing the self-effort or the self-discipline, there are other people who can also attain moksha. Okay, so here we are saying that only a monk or the person who is sticking to the you can say a particular kind of conduct, they can attain liberation. But here they are saying that individual person, different laymen can also go for the liberation. Okay, now universal salvation they are talking about, the universal liberation they are talking about, the belief that the salvation is attained for all, can be attained for all, even by a lay person. Nirvana is viewed as the positive bliss. Then idol worship, I told you that here you can see that they can go for the idol worship. You must have heard about the bodhisattvas like Padmapani, Amitabh. Okay, so these are the you can say personification of different Buddhas. Okay, coming to the next one, there are scriptures which are you can say other than the old scriptures, they also follow the new scriptures as well. Now when we talk about the Heenyan, that is the lesser vehicle. So here they are focusing on the individual liberation, and they say that only through the particular conduct, only through the self discipline, meditation, etc., you can go for the liberation. One of the path is your 4 noble truths. Okay, 8-fold paths, etc. That is also part of your Heenyan. Coming to the next one, that is your idols. I told you that they do not focus on the idols. They are mostly focusing on the personal enlightenment in the present life. Okay, and scriptures, we have told you that these are the followers of the old scriptures. Okay, coming to the explanation which we already discussed, so you can go through this. Then comes the next question. With reference to Buddhist philosophy, consider the following statement. Buddhism accepts the existence of permanent soul that continues after death and as the bearer of the karmic results. Now when we talk about Buddhism talk about a cycle of karma. They talk about you can say the kind of conduct which you follow that will take you towards a karmic cycle. So that is there, but they do not talk about any kind of permanence. They do not talk about a permanent supreme entity or permanent soul, etc. They do not talk about that. So here you can say that statement 1 is incorrect. Coming to the next one, Buddhism uphold a supreme creator God who controls the universe and governs the fate of being. As I told you that they do not talk about any kind of supreme creator or a God. Okay, So that statement is also incorrect. So option D would be your right answer. Both of the statements are not correct. Okay. Now Buddhism explains the you can say a different kind of existence. When we talk about the universe, they explain the universe through different process, but not from the permanence. They talk about the continuity, they talk about a cycle, but they do not talk about a permanence. Okay. So here you can say Buddhism, what are the you can say traits which Buddhism rejects? Here you can say a permanent soul, the Atma, they rejects that. Then comes the next one, that is the supreme creator God. They also reject the idea of God as well. Now coming to the kind of traits which they uphold, or they you can say follow. Here you can say the karma and rebirth, the kind of conduct which is there, on the basis of that you will have a cycle of birth and rebirth. So that is their karma and rebirth. They will follow that kind of concepts. And then dependent origination. So that is basically they are saying that for every action there is a cause and effect relation. So there is a dependency on the cause and the you can say whatever the reason is there for that. Okay, so that kind of dependency will be there. So cause and effect will be there. So this is about the Buddhism philosophy. So option D would be your right answer. The same thing which I explained over here, that is written over here. Now coming to the next question, that is question number 8. With reference to Mauryan administration, consider the following statement. The village headman was accountable to the Samhata and Sannidhata. Okay. Then at the provincial level, coming to the next one, that the land revenue was mainly collected as bhaga, that is usually 1/6 of the produce, while sharecroppers gave half of their produce to the state. Then comes the irrigation facilities were regulated by the state through water cess levied only on the irrigated lands. Okay, now here you can see, if we look at the statement 2 first, okay, land revenue was mainly collected through bhaga. So that is correct. When we talk about the land revenue, they used to take 1/6 of the produce. Then comes the you can say this part where half of the produce was going to the state, because here sharecroppers can actually grow on the state land, and half of the produce will be given to the state and half they will be keeping for themselves. So that kind of system was there, okay, in the Mauryan administration. So statement 2 is correct. Coming to the next one, that is irrigation facilities were regulated by the state through a water cess levied only on the irrigated lands. That is also true. Okay. Now if we talk about the village headmen here, so they are saying that they are accountable at the provincial level. So no, they were not accountable at the provincial level, they were accountable at the district level. Okay, so that statement is correct. Option C would be your right answer, that is second and third is the correct statement. Here you can see the revenue pipeline or the administrative system of the Mauryans were like that. Here you can say independent peasants, they used to give bhag, that is 1/6 of their produce. Then sharecroppers were the one who used to have the land from the they used to receive land from the state and they used to grow on that, and then half of the part will be going to the state and half they will be keeping for themselves. Then irrigated lands, so there was a cess which was for the water utilization, which was there. And that was regulated by the state. Okay, then these kind of taxes will be collected by the village headmen. Okay, that is the local administration, and they will be responsible to the district. Okay, and then they will be responsible to the you can say provincial or the macro management which was there, that is Samhata and the Sannidhatas. Okay, so this is the Mauryan administrative system. This is explained over here. Coming to the next question, which is, which of the following statement about the Satavahana dynasty is not correct? They are talking about the statement which is not correct. So Simukha Satavahana is regarded as the founder of the Satavahana dynasty. That statement is correct. He was the founder of Satavahanas. Now Satavahanas came after the Mauryans, whereas you can see in the history that after Mauryas and before Guptas there was a gap which was kind of filled by the Satavahanas. Okay. Then Gautami Putra Satkarni defeated the Satrapas of Western Deccan and Gujarat. This statement is also true. Coming to the next one, that is the later Satavahanas issued coins with bilingual legends in Prakrit and the Sanskrit language. Now when we talk about Satavahana, you will be seeing that in the areas of Andhra Pradesh, etc., they had the prominent rule over there. So definitely they had issued coin in bilingual language, but the language were, one was the Prakrit and second was the local language of the you can say from the Dravidian family. So here you can say that either it was Tamil, okay, but Sanskrit was not there. Okay, so option C would be the one which is your right answer, because this statement is incorrect. Now coming to the next one, that is the Nanaghat inscription of the Queen Nayanika records the performance of Vedic sacrifice. That is a general statement. So option C would be your right answer over here. Now here you can say that the Satavahana dynasty was one among the earliest powerful kingdom to emerge in the Deccan region after the fall of the Mauryas, which we have already seen. Okay, then if we talk about the Simukha Satavahana, he was regarded as the founder of the Satavahana dynasty, which has been mentioned earlier as well. Okay, there was this inscription in the Nasik inscription is one which is talking about the Satavahana, and then this Nanaghat inscription is another one which is talking about Satavahana, which you can remember. Okay, then Gautami Putra Satkarni, he was the prominent ruler of the Satavahana dynasty, so you should be knowing about them. I have already told you about the Nasik inscription, and then later Satavahana issued the coins in two languages, that was Prakrit and the South Indian language such as Tamil or Telugu, but not Sanskrit. Okay, then Queen Nayanika's Nanaghat inscription, which we have already talked about. Now comes the last question, that is, consider the following statement that Kushana rulers uses the diverse religious symbol reflected accommodation of the multiple traditions. Okay, statement 2 is the coins of the Kushana rulers features Iranian, Greek, Brahmanical, Buddhist and the local deities. Now both the statement here are correct. Okay, I'll tell you why. When we talk about the Kushana rulers, they have come up with the coins and there were various kind of gods which was there on the coins. Why they have gone for the religious symbols? Because they know if they want to rule an area, they need to have a religious sanction. Okay, for that they have used such coins wherein religious figures were also included. Now you will be seeing that diverse religious figures were included because the country, you can say the land where they were trying to rule, that was diverse in nature. At that point of time, Vaishnavites, Saivite, Buddhism, Jainism, that was thriving, and they were coming from the, you can say, western side, so they were kind of accommodating, they were kind of practical in this regard, where they have they have accommodated the various kind of traditions and religious symbols on the coins to get the religious sanction, and they projected the gods as the divine power, which is basically giving the authority to the king to rule the area. Okay, the coins of Kushan's rulers featured Iranian, Greek, Brahmanical, Buddhist and the local deities. Both the statements are correct here. So you can say the option A would be a right answer. Both statements are correct and they are basically explaining to the second statement is explaining the statement 1. Okay, so here you can say this is the coin or you can say example of such coin has been taken over here. So here you can say these are from the you can say Hindu tradition, or from you can say the Saivite or Vaishnavite traditions, and here you can say this is basically from the you can say West or the Iranian. Okay, so that is about the last question. Explanation is given over here, you can go through this. And now for your practice, there is this question: consider the following statement regarding the Vedic age. In the early Vedic age, tribal assemblies like Sabha and Vidatha exercised deliberative and the religious functions with women permitted to attend them. Then comes the second one: the term Rashtra indicating territory and the territorial kingship first appears in the later Vedic period. You have to choose the correct statements over here. So you can attempt this question and answer to me in the comment box. With that, I will take your leave. I'll see you in the next episode. Till then, have a nice day. Thank you, and please subscribe the channel.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.